Hi guys, this is our third session now in Web Development 2, and we're going to introduce you to the glitch environment. Fairly short session just to get started really. We'll talk first of all about what glitch is, and then we'll look at a tour of the user experience when you're interacting with glitch. At first contact, glitch might look like an editor, maybe like Google Docs, something you're editing documents. It's not really that. It's closer in spirit to the IDE, like IntelliJ, that you've been using in programming. That is, you've got a project open when you're interacting with glitch, and the project is running all the time, in fact, as long as there are no errors. That is, it's a running web application, not a website, a full application. We'll get into that in much more depth in the next couple of sessions. Today is a short enough session just to get you logged in, look around, and we'll do a small lab, which will be a deep dive into how glitch works by creating a simple website initially. And we move on to web apps in the next session. Okay, this won't take you too long, and in the next session we'll get a bit more deeply into web apps. We start with glitch then. Let's explore what it is and how we might use it, and some of its background and various resources. It's an interesting platform. It arose a couple of years ago in 2016, in fact, around the need to find a way of enabling developers to build applications that wasn't overwhelmed by the complexity of frameworks, tools, deployment, all the stuff, in fact, we've explored to a certain extent in our Web Development 1 course so far. But glitch takes this to another level, really, in terms of ease of use. It's effectively a website we can use to build applications comparable to what we have been building to date. It's got a very attractive website, a lot of helpful resources there. They spend a lot of time on kind of community formation and allowing developers to showcase their work. There's playlists of various sample applications they have built, and the community has also built. Well worth having a poke around the website itself, very attractively designed, and lots of useful resources to help you get started in here. You can build basic websites, the kind of thing we might have been doing with, let's say, our Netlify and Eleventy work some time ago. In fact, Eleventy is a fairly prominent feature of some of the samples that they have here. But you can also build what we'll be building, which is a Node app, which is comparable to the Play apps we've been building. There are quite a lot of starter projects you can have a look at. You could spend quite a bit of time just rummaging through the various samples they have on site here. And we'll be looking at one or two of these later. There's also a whole range of what they're calling playlists, which are starter applications for games, for creative programming. You'll see processing there, you might remember. Music applications, APIs, and even hardware hacking applications for using Raspberry Pis and the like. Also some Pythons. The documentation is divided around these kind of 5 or 6 areas. It's worth just having a quick peek, at least at the major titles in this documentation, which I'll just run through now so you know where to go when you're looking for help. So we'll look at some of these, not in great depth, but just general overview. First of all, getting started, the project editor, status bar, tools, your project dashboard. In the documentation here, you'll find nice summaries of what all these mean. There's also a Glitch Pro, so you can pay for Glitch if you like. We don't need to do so. We do pay a little penalty in terms of the speed and performance, but it's perfectly fine for what we're trying to do. In the project editor, probably worth looking at some of these later on. How assets are managed, for instance, keyboard shortcuts that are interesting. The rewind feature, which is interesting for going back in time on the project. Prettier formatting and the like. Projects themselves, technical restrictions for projects, so overall project hours are worth investigating a little bit, and different project types. Also have a look at embeds, you might find those interesting. And then there's various articles here on working in teams, how a team page might work, how you can start to explore and form team with others online. Articles on adding links, copying themes, and changing the overall layout. These would be related to establishing your own glitch bio on the site. Glitch itself, they're keen to propose that it's not just a toy or a dumbed down kind of friendly web app builder. It is based on professional tools. So it's the kind of tools that are used to build commercial, highly scalable applications. That's worth bearing in mind. So any skills you acquire exploring and learning Glitch are quite transferable and quite relevant. Point about Glitch is that it tries to hide from you some of the complexity of managing your own servers, provisioning, and a whole range of other aspects to do with modern web application development that can be quite tedious or complex to grapple with. Glitch aims to cater for much of this so that you're free to focus on the application you want to build. You're probably all familiar with Stack Overflow. Well, Glitch comes from the same team that built that and built other very well-known project management tool, Trello. So it's got a pretty good heritage, and they seem to have done a fair bit of work in maintaining it over the years. It's now 5 or 6 years old at this stage. When they made it, they were thinking in terms of how web applications were developed once upon a time. This is back in the 90s, early noughties, before the web became, so widely used. It was also somewhat simpler, and applications could be rolled out reasonably quickly in that era. That era is kind of gone now. The kind of tools that would have been used then, they're not really secure anymore and not widely supported in many contexts, and they also wouldn't scale very well. However, something was missing really in the modern tool set, which meant that there was a big obstacle to getting web apps out and deployed, and Glitch aimed to fill that role, somewhat recreating some of the earlier days of the internet and the web. So you will create projects on the website. So your project effectively will live on the Glitch website, and your IDE is your web browser. So it plays the role somewhat of IntelliJ IDEA in the work we've done so far. The whole range of features available, including importing and exporting to GitHub, which is quite interesting. And we'll be using the import from GitHub a lot just to get started. You got your profile will be tied to your GitHub account, so you can sign in with GitHub directly. And you will get used to various features of the application you're running. Particularly, you're running it on the web, of course, as a web app, but you're using a browser to create it, edit it, and monitor it. So your logs will also be visible in the browser. These are the logs that you would have been using, say, in Play, coming up on the console. Or indeed, if you did deploy to Heroku, you will have seen the log interface there. That log interface will be important for you as you go forward, because that's where any errors that occur you will be able to spot and hopefully fix. So you'll be keeping an eye on those logs over time. You'll also be keeping an eye on the kind of syntax errors that might arise in the browser itself. Remember, the browser is playing the role of the IDE in this context, as well as obviously hosting or allowing us to access, rather, the web app that we're building. So it's a very interesting tool set, well worth exploring. And we spend a little bit of time now looking a little bit deeper into the interface itself, getting a sense of what it's like to develop in Glitch. So what do you see when you fire up Glitch and start to use it? What are the main user interface features? Let's take a look at some of those. So what do you need? You don't need anything. So we're working at Play, we had to install the Play framework. That of course, sat on top of the Java environment, which we had to install. And then we went off and installed IntelliJ IDEA, make sure it was licensed and so on. Well, the nice thing about this environment is you don't need any of that. We're just using a browser and our GitHub account to log in. So you can sign in via GitHub. There are other options as well. And once you've signed in, you are invited to create projects. Now, we'll be largely working off the Node projects, and we'll be talking about what Node is a good bit later on in the course. But for a moment, you can think of Node as just a way of building JavaScript web apps that are comparable to the Play apps you've been building. So Node is a bit like the Play framework, except of course it's JavaScript, not Java. So if you were to take Hello Glitch Node as a sample project, you can find that very easily when you kick off the framework or the glitch service, then it'll immediately power up a complete project for you. And what you're seeing here is comparable to what you might see in IntelliJ IDEA. You're looking at a complete application. The app source is listed on the left. It's like a list of files. And then various other panels will show you what's going on here. There's the name of the project. It's automatically generated. You can rename this. Files and folders in the project. You can edit the current file. And you can press a button to see the app you're editing live. That is, you can open up a preview of the app you've just created and are editing. So we'll spend some time getting to know this structure here and building our own structure. We'll very much be mirroring the work we've done in the MVC, Model View Controller pattern in Play, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Project structure is a list of files basically and folders, and it's largely written in JavaScript, but we also, in many of the sample projects, will see a lot of other file types, including JSON, HBS, and MD. These are JSON file format, MD Markdown format, and HBS handlebars template engine. Don't worry about those for the moment, but it is worth just taking a quick look at how the sample project we're looking at here is structured. It takes a while to get your head around what's going on here, but we do have a front end and a back end. That is, we do have the equivalent of our Play templates and our style sheets, and the equivalent of our Java, which is now JavaScript backend inside the app you might be building. So the starter app, and you will do this in one of the labs, just lets you create a blank app really that doesn't do much. It does generate a simple web page though with a little form on it. You can enter some values and it'll make some changes. The code here is a bit inaccessible to us for the moment, so we won't be going into this particular code. Just to draw out the major features of it, we've got HTML. In this case, it's going to be using the handlebars engine. And we've got server-side JavaScript. This is going to be the equivalent of the Play controllers and in certain extent models in the earlier course we've covered. Remember, client-side HTML is hosted in your browser. Server-side is hosted on a web server somewhere. In this case, it's our glitch project. And our job really is to explore how to build apps in this framework in the next few weeks. We're assuming you've got HTML and CSS behind us. We're going to use semantic CSS framework, and we've already got Play behind us. So we're going to rediscover some of the same patterns Play implemented. And in fact, we're going to cover the same sample applications, to-do list and playlist. However, what we're covering now is not JavaScript, it's Java. So we're doing backend or server-side JavaScript programming. And this is in the context of Node.js and the Node.js framework called Express. So we'll be learning a lot about what this means, how the code on the left here is from the sample app. We won't be actually spending much time on that particular sample. We'll be switching to our own samples fairly soon. So I hope you will find it kind of a fun experience. We do have a lot of knowledge accumulated already now with our work in Play and Java. And we're going to be looking at the same applications, the playlist and to-do apps, re-implemented in the JavaScript environment. The equivalent of Play will be Express and Node, and the glitch platform plays the role that Heroku would have played in our earlier course. It also plays the role of the IntelliJ IDE. That is, we're using glitch to edit the application and run it.